Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is such a challenging thing for us to do, but it can really have a big impact on your hopes, your dreams, your goals, life in general. In theory, it sounds like it's easy, but it's not. And that is surrendering. To surrender. Now, when we say that word, we think of right away a situation where somebody has the white flag. I surrender. That's it. You got it. But that's not really what we're talking about here. I want to let her explain. I was going to continue, but that's not my job. It's hers. She is an amazing life coach, helps people in all different areas. She's a TEDx speaker, emotional freedom technique practitioner, again, certified life coach, works with everyone of every age in every area with many different things, including surrendering. Michelle Mehta is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure and honor to meet with you and connect with you and dive deeper into our lives. Sometimes, I think, Stephen, you and I take this opportunity to go into the blind spots that normally we don't think about. And we shed a little bit of light into that. And I love doing that with you week after week.
Why do we need to surrender? Why? Because you have a plan. That was the plan, and it didn't work out. Things varied around there. And give an example of why we need to surrender.
Number one, especially with January, just the way it's been, with the fires in Southern California. I'm a local to Southern California. And it's like these goals of I had this goal to do this project with my house, or I had this thing to do with the school. And then you come to realize there's no school, there's no home. And life just took things away from us. And in that moment, you realize, one, why me? Why not somebody else? And two, go back into, we've talked about this over and over again. It's like a broken record, but it's gratitude. Gratitude that we're okay. Gratitude that you still have a human life. With gratitude comes the topic of surrendering, which is sometimes we are operating on our own plan. We are in control of our schedule. We are in control of our time. But then there's this intervention. I like to call it the divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an intervention that just drops out of nowhere. A car breaks down that was unplanned. Fire comes through unplanned. Hurricanes come through unplanned. Mother Nature comes through unplanned. And in that moment, hopes and dreams, desires disappear. Because now it's like, what's next? And sometimes when we're focusing so much on an area of our life, such as professionally, I want to get that promotion. I will do everything in my power to get that promotion. I want that raise. It's a new year, new goals, new avenues. I want that. And then you realize now your spouse isn't talking to you. Your kids don't feel connected to you. You feel maybe, you know what? You're ending up in the ER because of the stress of this achieving this thing so hard. And then you say, if I let go, what's going to happen? Well, if you let go, you have room for more. And then you go back to that conversation. Do I really want more on my plate? And that's where divine intervention comes through, and it forces you to have more on your plate or less on your plate.
I'm seeing this as you have to have faith.
Yeah. 100%.
And not just, a God or anything. Yeah. If that supports you, perfect. But also just faith in yourself, the universe. And we can get so caught up. You can have one of those days where it's like, that just happened. Now that, I'm like, and it's not going the way you wanted it to go. I can relate.
Right, absolutely.
Girl, even in the last hour, I've received like, what? One, I'm going to be honest with you. One very surprising message from someone that was a 180 for them. What the heck? And a project they were an instrumental part, and then they changed their direction. And somebody I've known for years, and they must be having a bad day, whatever it might be. And my my first thought was like, ah, and I'm like, surrender, not meant to be, not meant to be, onto a different direction. And that direction will be without that person. And that's perfectly fine. I'm more concerned about their mindset, at this moment than anything else. But I'm not worried. It's like, okay, on to the next thing. But it's not easy. You have
It's not
to,
easy.
you have to believe it's going to be okay.
You have to have faith. And also, it's like, I want this relationship to work so hard, right? I want this thing to work so hard, this relationship, this communication. And the other person's just having a bad day and they're just snapping at you. And the more we go after it, the more it runs away from us. Instead of just saying, you know what, let it go. And Steve, the reason why you're able to flawlessly just let it go is because you have that mindset. You have done enough work on yourself, right, to just say it's going to be okay. But many of us don't go down that path because we want to be in that control. And when
Yeah.
control is taken away from us, then what do? Right?
It's an uncomfortable situation.
And that uncomfortableness is temporary if you let it be temporary.
So funny you should say that. And I just get these downloads every once in a while. But the men's group I told you that I'm a part of, and this version, because there's different tours, and this one lasts for about 4 months or whatever, and we have our standards, and there's 5 of them, but one of them is embrace discomfort.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're talking about. It's like, it's uncomfortable. I'm out of control. I can't do anything to get this to happen. That said, Michelle, do you believe that that's the way of the universe? It is the universal law making changes because that's the way it's supposed to go, and it's guiding you in some way.
Yeah, I remember like just a week ago, we were talking about how I became a TEDx speaker, something that was so far-fetched, an idea, right? And had I had like have I been more in control of that, I would have just been like, you know what? My main focus is just what's in front of me. I would have never even thought about taking that step of the TEDx. It would have just been like, oh, doesn't matter. Like everybody's doing it, just not for me. However, there was a leap of faith. We're talking about faith. And I surrendered and I said, why not give it a shot? And to work with a coach who said, I've never in my career of building this TEDx program, coaching program, have I had anyone land a TEDx talk in 8 weeks. Because he said it takes 6 months to prep, design, deliver, all of it. In 8 weeks, I got that congratulations email. And the only reason why I got that was because I followed up with them and just said, hey, out of curiosity, what's the status of my application? And they said, oops, we forgot to send it to you.
Mhm.
Had I not followed up, I would have never known.
Why did you follow up?
I followed up because the coach said, you know what, Michelle, if you've applied and you've had an interview with them, follow up with them every 2 weeks just to keep them warm, saying that, hey, you're interested.
So I want to look at this in a different way for a moment. If it's supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
That person that told you to follow up, they they must have been directed somewhere else to tell you that. And then maybe, whatever it might be, but the chain of action there led to the TEDx talk. But when you just kind of look back at it, fly over the bleachers, if you will, how each step led to another step. Ultimately, you deserved it. You should be doing it. And I firmly believe it's not even a thought in my mind. And I really mean that. But it happened because it was supposed to happen. Some things don't happen because they're not supposed to happen. There are some that believe that, I can't find my keys today. Where did they go? Well, if you did find them, you might have been in that accident, on Route 54, whatever it is. Um, do you believe that these pieces are happening for a reason, and we might not see the big picture right now, but eventually we may or may not?
Absolutely. And, in NLP world, neuro linguistic programming world, we believe that things are happening for us. They're not happening to us. And it goes back to that being in cause and effect. When you're at cause of things, you're in control. So things are happening for you. They're happening around you for you to experience.
Mm,
Versus the effect of it is things are happening to you. So you're playing a victim mindset in that scenario,
wow.
right? So it goes back to like when you're surrendering and you look at the things that are in front of you and you pick and choose. I want this promotion for me. If I don't get the promotion, it's not because the company doesn't like you. It's because maybe something else is in store for you that you haven't even thought about. It's in the blind spot. And that blind spot is only created by, I call it divine timing, faith, right? And the only reason why I followed up with that, Steve, is because my counterpart, my classmate, had already had 8 rounds of interviews in those 2 weeks. And the fact is that, like, he was in conversation, what happened to my application? And so in my mind, I was like, he's definitely getting it because they've had more conversations, only to find out the tables had turned.
Mm.
Those 8 conversations gave him a denial, versus my one conversation gave me the acceptance
Can you think of a time where you had to surrender recently?
all the time. I'm surrendering in this world called dating. I really like this guy. I think it's all in, and then it doesn't, right? It's, or like, I think, all the cards are lined up. He's a nice guy. He has all the accolades. He treats me like a princess. And now he's blocked me.
Just out of nowhere.
Just blocked me, no communication, disappears for days.
Now flip it around. Now flip it around and look at it. And, they say it's there. There's a lesson in everything, right?
Yeah.
Where's the lesson? He's doing you a favor.
He's doing me a favor because why do I want to chase for something that if somebody really wants to be in my life, and I truly believe this because I've had this happen, if someone really wants to be in my life, they will figure out a way to come back in.
Agreed.
I've had college friends. We've lost touch since we've graduated. 6 years go by. And two of my friends, girlfriends, came back into my life during the 2020 pandemic and said, "Hey, Michelle, I've been following your content on social, just want to reach out to you." We have now become the best of friends as if no time had passed. So I truly believe if someone really wants to be in my life, they will come back in. And
Mm.
and if you are a good person, and you leave people better than they found them, they're gonna come back. And I've had guys that I've dated in the past come back years after just to say, "Hey, how's it going?" And at
Yeah.
that moment, I'd say, you know what? Why do I want to repeat the past again? I'm just gonna let you say, you know what? Not interested in moving this forward.
Mm. Same situation. I had somebody out of nowhere. Yeah, went on a couple of dates with back in 21. Reached out to me recently. Hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you on the. Blah, blah, blah. We made plans to get together last night, and I kind of sat back on it. I was like, you know what? We tentatively picked a date like 2 weeks ago. It's kind of weird. She was saying, 2 weeks on a Wednesday. I'm like, okay, sure. And
Yeah.
I haven't I didn't hear from her, and I didn't follow up. And I'm like, okay, gave me my answer. It wasn't as important. You're the one who reached out to me. I'm good with that. But to your point, even connecting with people over the summer, I'm walking into town nearby and with my dog, and I look up, and there's somebody that I recognize from my childhood. He and his brother, we pretty much grew up together, except he's 12 years younger than me. His brother's my age, and his brother's cool, but I'm not really as connected. But he and I hit it off. We hang out like typically once a week. We're at the same point in our life. We have the same mindset. We love live music, and we saying everything. It's weird, but that I believe was meant to be. And I believe my mom pushed him into my life because his mom and my mom, they were best friends.
I love that. And so if you let go, right, more opportunities are coming in. And I always tell this to my clients, and I do this as a daily practice, is like, we want something so bad, right? So Steve, you're gonna do this exercise. Take your palm, open it up. Now make it into
Mm.
a fist and squeeze into that. And if you have nails, at this point, your nails are digging into your skin. At what point are you gonna let go?
It's uncomfortable.
You have to let go. You have to let go immediately, right? At
Yeah.
some point,
Yeah.
it's a pain, it's just too painful. And you let go, and all of a sudden that opportunity comes knocking on your door. And sometimes we do this with relationships. I want it to work so bad. I'm so close. Like everybody around me is getting married, and I want to get married, and I want to have the kids, and I want to, and then maybe you're choosing the wrong partner. because you're so gung-ho about that. Maybe you're not recognizing the flags that are there, green, red, yellow, pink, whatever color you want to make them.
Mm-hmm.
So people fall into traps. And I've fallen into traps multiple times and gotten back up. And the only reason why I was able to get back up was because I sought out help. I was not afraid because I was like, what? Why is this area of my life keep failing over and over and over again? There has to be somebody that can help me see the things that I'm not seeing.
Are you using your intuition?
Well, back then I didn't know I had an intuition,
Like
right?
really, really using your intuition. And if we're
Right.
talking about the dating situation,
Right.
I always use mine, and it's always right to the point that if I'm like, I'm going to go on a date with somebody, let me just give this a try. I don't want to say I'm jinxing it or I'm manifesting the outcome, but what's inside turns out to be exactly what I thought it was going to be. And it's almost as if, let me just see if it was going to turn out that way. But it does.
It does.
And
But you
yeah,
have to be able to trust your intuition and you have to be able to notice the intuition is talking to you.
yes.
20 years ago, I didn't even know I had a thing called intuition. Or maybe I did, but I never tapped into it. I didn't create awareness around it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then over time, as I got older and got into more and more personal development, I started feeling and started paying attention to my body, right? The knots in my stomach, the way my heart's beating, the way I'm breathing. And through that, my intuition started coming through. Like this morning, I was like, okay, I had this like serum, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take it to my friend who is in facial and massage, and I'm like, I'm gonna show her the serum to see if it's good for me to use. And I'm driving to her, and I was like, okay, January 24, I'm like, it's the appointment, I'm gonna go see her. I left my house, and I was like, shoot, I forgot that serum. So I drive back. And I went and I picked it up. And because I knew this was an intuition that was talking to me this morning when I took a shower, right? But it just, as I left the door, I forgot about it. And then as I was driving, 3 lights in, I was like, maybe I should go back and get it. And I'm so glad I turned around because talking about it over the phone may not have been such an impact versus just showing to her in person, especially when I was going to see her anyways, right? So sometimes we're getting clues like that throughout the day if you pay attention.
Hmm.
If you pay attention. And the only way you're going to pay attention if you just be open to receiving the information. For that, you got to
Yeah.
release the control of all the things that are working for you, towards you, around you, and just say, you know what? What's in front of me? Being present will help you bring in that new information.
Being open to it. And I'm share with you, got, a situation going on in my life. And I woke up out of a sound sleep last night at about 3:30, 4 a.m. And I was having a dream about a friend that passed away. And he passed away 2010. And there was a message I'm convinced he was there. And I don't care what anybody, you don't believe me, go. That's okay. I don't, doesn't bother me. He was there giving me a message, and I woke up so fast I didn't hear the message. And there's a reason I believe he showed up in my dream, and I hope I hear it again just so I can get the clarity, because there was an answer and I'm looking for an answer, and I believe but I woke up so fast it just shocked me. But to your point, seeing the signs, looking, just being aware of things, it's there. The universe is giving it to you. Call them breadcrumbs, nuggets, whatever. You got to feel it.
Yeah, I've had dreams lately about like, like random like snakes or, like I'm surrounded by snakes and, I'm like not attacking them, but they're like basically attacking me. And I'm like, and I really don't like snakes. So I'm like, why would I be in that in real life? But that was a dream. Or like I've, lost something and now I found them. And so Steve, what I do is, and I recommend this for other people too, is Google the object that was in the dream.
Yeah.
Because having a snake in the dream refers to transformation, shedding of old life, creating a new life, right? Shedding of the old skin. So, how does that show up in your life right now? So, you may not necessarily know what the entire scene is, but if you pick like an object or two that was consistently there,
Yep.
you can go back and be like, what was behind it?
I totally agree. And I do the same exact thing. I don't have those types of dreams as often, but when I do, and
Right.
you just brought back a memory to last year where I walk outside my place, and there is I don't know, maybe like 10 orange balloons. But here's the thing, like somebody could have had a party, right? Whatever. For those balloons to make their way to my front door, it's not easy. And I Googled it, and there was a message there for the balloons. Fast forward a few weeks, a month later, whatever, I walk out and there's gold and black balloons in the same exact spot. I don't have a venue near me, a party place or anything like that. And again, the wind would have to blow it in a certain way to get it up the path because there's, this thing's in a way. And it was at my doorstep. And I Googled that and there was a message there. And a lot of it did connect to my life.
Absolutely.
And nobody drove to my house dropping off balloons, I assure.
Well, right. And and between the hours of 2 and 4 is where our
Yeah.
ancestors come and communicate with us.
Hmm.
And that's where most of our deep sleep happens. Now, if you are sleeping at those hours, if you have a graveyard shift, I don't know about that. But if you're generally
Yeah.
sleeping between the hours of those hours is where the ancestors, or I call it spirits, they come into our life and they share messages because they can see things that we physically cannot see at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
And that's
hoping.
why they always say rest in peace, right? They say, anybody that passes away, rest in peace, because it's eternally peaceful up in that arena, because there's no stress. Us on this planet, on this realm, is constantly chasing that next thing. And they've lived their life. And now it's their job to be as guides to us, which is why they're called spirit guides.
Hmm. Interesting. Uh, and when you think about how yeah, a couple of hundred years ago, how spiritualism was so much bigger, people would see signs. That's because we didn't have all the distractions that we have today.
Yes.
And a part of me wishes, I was back there. Maybe I was in
Right.
another life. I don't know. But just it was just, it's just different time where you picked up on those things.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we're guided. Like you call it spirit guides. Some people call it a spirit team. It could be an archangel. It could
Right.
be my friend John, who was in my dream last night. John, I hope
Right.
I see you tonight, man. What are you trying to tell me? I know you are. There's something there. I'm going to get it. Or write it down. Send me a text, John.
Right.
But there's a reason that we're piloted, and the universe wants the best, so it's throwing those things out there. You got to see it. But back to the beginning, you got to surrender.
You got to surrender and just be open to the things that are around you. Listen to what people are saying. Sometimes people say, like, hey, that you share a dream with them. I really want to do this XYZ. They get all excited, they share it with you. And maybe what comes out of your mouth is, are you really sure you want to do that? And now
Hmm.
you've created a self-doubt in them. What you're actually doing is giving them the opportunity to say, how strong are you in focusing on your dream? How badly do you want it?
I see you in a totally different way today, or a different side of you, um, a deeper spiritual side, Michelle, and I never knew that. And I love it. It's so cool. It's just
Thank
another
you.
just another side of you, and how in touch and in tune you are with helping people. Your
Thank
website,
you.
your name, please share.
MichelleMeta.com. Find me on all things social, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook at I am Michelle Meta. And Steve, it was never like this before. I recently tapped into it the more I started doing more work and started realizing with myself. And, when you're in stressful situations, you can't even see the goodness that comes out of it. It's only when you surrender and you find that right match where you don't have the anxiety or the stress is where you can actually tap into that real self, the real essence of you. Because we are all soul beings. We are human beings. We're not human doings.
Hmm.
And the B part comes from our heart, does not come from our head. We think it comes from our head, but our head just backs it up. We are human beings, and that's Beings. Beings. Yeah, Beings. So pay attention to that B part of you. And that's going to help you surrender and let go of the grip that you think needs to happen. And there's nothing wrong in asking for support. There's nothing wrong in doing things with a team. If you want to go far, hire a team. If you want to go slow, do it yourself. Choice is
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
You
Team
know.
team is also a coach. You can't do it alone because you can't see these things because you're in the thick of it. You're in the middle of it and you haven't surrendered, or maybe you don't even know how. And it's not overnight. I'm sorry. It takes time, confidence, faith, in yourself, some resilience, and all of that. I believe that we can never totally surrender just because we're wired that way.
Kendrick Lamar is performing at the Super Bowl. He reached out to another artist and said, "Will you perform with me?" Does that mean he's less capable? No, it just means he's going to give a grander show if somebody else does it with him.
I'm not the one that wants to score the touchdown. I want to be on the winning team. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything we talked about today. It's so important, and many of us don't realize it.
Well, again, my website is mytuner-radio.com. Find me on all things social at I am Michelle Mehta. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
And by the way, Mehta, just making sure that's clear. All right.
Yes.
We'll talk soon. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the mytuner-radio, online radio box, and simpleradio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.